Stargate Voyager.
Well, it is great to have Robert Edward Grant back for another episode. The author, inventor, explorer, CEO, really so much more. Host of Gaia's Codex series. Robert, thanks for coming back for another interview.
It's good to be here with you, Derek. Always happy to see you.
And I've been enjoying your research and your postings regarding cymatics and sound resonance, geometry. So there's so much to talk about. And I know you've been making some new discoveries lately inside the King's Chamber. So I'll kind of let you start this out wherever you want to take it. What do you want to share with us?
I just got back from Brazil, and I can tell you right now, Brazil is going to explode in discovery related to pyramids. There are pyramids all over Brazil, and I have photographs of some of them. And none of these have been discovered, and they look way more realistic than any of the things that you've seen coming out of either Antarctica or out of Bosnia. And I found a megalithic site. I happened to give a speech in Floripa, which is Florianopolis. And while I was there, I didn't even know why my team asked me to go there, right? Because it's kind of a small town. It's supposedly kind of a magic island. And they told me there are 3 megalithic sites there. Have you ever heard anything about this?
No, I just saw your video, and I have it in my notes to ask you about this Orion correlation that you had of these sites. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I was like blown away. And, I just went. And of course, I was laughing because I'm, launching this Orion app, which just happened to be way too much of a coincidence, right? And so what I found was while I was there, they told me that, the place where we're going, there's 3 megalithic sites, and these megalithic sites, look like this. And I looked at them from Google Earth, right? This is one of them. This is called Indian stone, right? And it's like a Stonehenge type thing, and it matches perfectly with the solstice and with equinox. And you see where this cut is in the stone right here? These are cuts so that you can see exactly where the sun comes up on the horizon on the solstice. And there's another one here, and they line up with the other site that is off in the distance, which looks like this. This is called Dragon Head, right? And it's also matching up. See the cut right here in the stone as well? They're all matching up. And then there's a third site, which looks like this. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And this third site is on a mountaintop. So I said, are these sites, one of them is here, the other one's here, and the other one was over here on top of this mountaintop over here. So I'm like, wait a minute. Is this a straight line? They're like, no, it's kind of a crooked line, and it's not a triangle really. And I said, it's Orion's belt. I just knew it. So then I went and looked it up, and it's exact match to Orion's belt. Perfect match of the 3 belt stars, right? And that's where this thing up atop this is. And what's more, one of these things was already discovered. The one on top of this mountaintop, which had this picture right here, this is the Orion constellation. This is a megalithic site that's like Stonehenge for Orion. And you've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. That's for sure. An Orion constellation? Are you freaking kidding me? Like what? And here's what it looks like. If you look, okay, see where the Orion Nebula one is, right? And all these little stars around here? Mm-hmm. They even have blocks for those. See this block right here?
Mm-hmm.
See this one right here where this stone is? It's unbelievable. This one right here, it's mind-boggling. And then the 3 major ones are, of course, in the center. And then you've got this trapezium one. It's also marked by this here. So again, Orion shows up all the way around the Earth. And within 2 hours of this place, of course, I started asking all kinds of other questions, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to know, what other questions, I might have related to this. So I found, the following. There's a pyramid within 2 hours of this location.
Yeah, look at those two sides right there.
It's nuts. It even looks like it's got concourses in the dirt. What in the heck, man? And this is on a military base. This is from the other side of it. I'm trying to get access to this place. I actually met with the son-in-law of the vice president so that I could, because who's interested in this stuff, he's going to try to get me access to this.
And so you were in Brazil. This was not
Last
necessarily
week,
not for this purpose though of finding pyramids. You were just there doing a lecture.
I was just there doing like a speaking tour at this place right here in Floripa, which kind of had like this new agey crystal vibe and everything. It's kind of a cool place. But I was just there giving a speech, and this place was immediately adjacent to the middle of those three megalithic sites.
And are those pyramids near Floripa as well?
Yeah, they are. The pyramid's only 2 hours away from Floripa, which,
Click on that.
it's not that far because that's, bad traffic there. It's terrible traffic.
Click on that one last pyramid photo on the right there. Yeah.
And I found another one that's just the other angle from the other side. I found another one in a place called Alto Paraiso that I was also at that, was kind of mind-boggling. But wait, there's more, right? There's so much more. This is a video of one of the stars, right, above that. So they already know that there's an Orion correlation to the middle one. They didn't know that all three sites made Orion's belt. So this is at the place you go to visit in Florianopolis. They're like Orion constellation, and it's the one that's on top of the mountaintop. And a archaeologist discovered it, right? So he had oriented it a slightly different, so he didn't have it exactly perfected over this site right here. He didn't have it perfected like the way that I did, so he didn't find the other correlations. And he didn't know that the three sites were actually making Orion's belt as well. Right? So that's an entirely new discovery. But they had already recognized that it was a correlation to Orion. So that's kind of mind-boggling too. I was shocked that I'd never even heard of it. Well, when you go up there, there happens to be a very large stone that's in the position where Rigel would be, right? So if you looked here, this large stone right down here actually has a crawl space underneath it that you can go inside of, like a sarcophagus. Okay. So the next video I'm going to show you, I've not shown this to anybody yet, is a video of me inside that crawl space videoing the top of the crawl space. Now, the stone is like a granite that is like coral granite. Whenever you get close to the seaside, you always have like these little pock marks, in the stone, right? So it almost looks like it's coralized. Yeah. But now let's see, I'll turn the sound off so you can't hear me say anything, but let's see if you could see what I saw. First of all, if you look closely, you'll see some linear lines on the stone.
Yeah.
You see this one right here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Another linear, it should have no linear lines. Okay. You'll also notice that there seems to be kind of circles etched into the stone. There's a circle line right here. You see this circle right here?
Yeah.
Right. There's circles all over it. Here's another circle right here. Do you see this? See this line?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yep. There's another circle right here. Could this be like a flower of life? Think about Osirian.
Right.
In Abydos. The outer wall. We discovered an Alpha Chi Omega on the outer wall in the most prominent place on the outer wall at Osirian Temple in Abydos. And what can we find?
I saw the video of that. That was fascinating to see that other flower of life on that other big, massive pillar.
Yeah. There's flowers of life over all of it. All of it's covered and etched like this. Now, what about this? This looks like a straight line and another straight line, doesn't it? Right here, forming the shape of the letter A. And then there's something in the center here, and something looks like petals coming off of it.
Is that an Alpha Omega, possibly?
Just wait. I'll turn the sound on now.
Wow, the flower of life, guys.
You found the flower?
Yep, there's a flower of life under all of this.
See all the lines, the circles? There's a circle,
See the
right
circle
there.
here? There's a star inside of it. There's a circle right here. Yep. Yep, another one right here.
There's another circle right
See
here.
it? This is matching like the ones we see in Orion. It's a flower of life all the way along it. Wow. Here's another one.
There's a circle right here
You see
again.
this?
Okay, yeah, I see that one.
Yep. Flower
They're
of
all
life
overlapping
over it.
circles, and it's making like a lotus shape.
It's a flower of life, also organized. Here's another one.
Here's another circle
The
right
entire
here.
thing is covered with it.
It's badly eroded.
Here's
It
another
sits
one right
outside,
Yeah,
It's a
severely.
flower of life organized, also with a lotus in the center.
but you can see
It's
the linear
basically
lines
going out
also.
like a crown chakra. It's incredibly beautiful when you can.
See, if you see right the center here, it's like some sort of flower growing out of that center point and then growing all the way out like a lotus flower. And what the heck, man?
See it, but it's all in higher dimension.
So there's not been, this is another video.
Looks to be a lotus flower etched into the underside of this rock. I'm in what they call up here the sarcophagus. I'm laying down inside this, underneath this very large rock, which I believe represents regal.
If you look closely, you could see like petals coming off this too. See
Okay.
this right here?
Yeah.
Right? Another one right here. And this is the center point of it.
Wow, the flower of life, guys.
You found the flower?
Yep, there's a flower of life under all of this.
There's another petal right here. There's a line right here. It's the shape of a petal.
Okay, yep, I see that.
Flower of life. They're all over it.
Okay, yeah, I can
Wow.
see a big one right there.
Oh, you saw one? You saw a big one?
Or just kind of that angle really made it seem pronounced to me, but
Yeah. So
right there
let
in
me show
Brazil.
you, I'll show you one other thing because I got it on my. There's Alpha
Alpha Chi Omega.
and then a Chi that cuts right across here, right? And then an Omega, a
Alpha Chi
small
Omega.
one. It's inside here. Here's the circle.
And DNA
And then a
strand
larger one inside
well.
the A.
DNA.
Exactly inside the A. So if I'll try to go slow with this. So here's the line. This is so new that I haven't even made any images of it yet. So I'm going to annotate on top of this. And it's not the best, but you can still kind of see. You see the green line?
Mhm.
There's a small circle, right? And there's a larger circle. The circle that's larger is right here, and a line across it, and then a smaller one, right? And then inside of this, there's also an X, Alpha Chi Omega into the stone, amid a flower of life. That's the first I've heard of this. It's just fascinating because to me, it's like, how in the heck? Now you see it,
DNA.
right?
There's two X's.
Yeah.
And it's all, the background of it is all the flower of life and a lotus flower. It's crown chakra.
And this is underneath what they
Unbelievable.
call a sarcophagus.
We're
Yeah,
finding our ancient past and remember.
it's underneath that regal stone, and it's propped on three other stones. So they had to lift this thing up,
Oh, so this
prop
is
it on three other stones.
it's a standing stone.
It's a huge stone. Yeah, it's probably, I'd say it's at least like 150-ton stone.
Or I should say it's a balancing rock.
It's a balancing rock. It's propped on three other rocks.
Yeah. Took something very special to be able to place that. Man, I've got to show you something. Can you see that?
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
I thought
That was pretty epic. Yeah,
that was interesting.
that was in
especially-
Brazil. That's right. I saw
Yeah.
that. I was like, what the heck?
Especially being that it's in Brazil. Again, you just never hear of much of anything ancient there. And
Yeah,
then there
because they
was,
never talk about it. Look, that's another propped stone. And that looks like the side of that pyramid where it's got ridges.
yep, that's in England somewhere. But let me show you this one photo of something else in Brazil. This is it. Look at this.
Yeah,
Look-
come on.
Now, if you look close, you can see, I mean, this is massive.
Those are huge blocks.
Look at the vertical cut marks on the top block.
Yep.
I mean, those were placed.
No doubt. Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, even to suggest anything else is kind of laughable.
I mean, so was this part of some kind of
Like
pyramid?
a
I mean,
gigantic wall. Yeah.
some kind of wall. You can see this block on the right side sticking out. You can see the shaping on that. So that pieced with what you're sharing, there's something going on in Brazil.
There's definitely something going on in Brazil. There's no doubt. And then also, I just found these images as well that were supposedly in Brazil, like this omega shape, something megalithic in a place called Pir Buru Path in Rio.
That's definitely precision shape there.
Yeah. So I think there's a whole lot of stuff that just has never made the news or anything in that's in Brazil, right? It's not, it just seems like it's been entirely missed, which is super fascinating because it's like you have to ask the question, why? Why is it that they wouldn't have wanted to, understand this further, exploit it, any of it? It's just, it raises so many questions that are still left, very much unanswered. Here's another pyramid that I just found driving around, Alto Paraiso. It has 4 sides on it. It's a huge structure with this little antenna thing on top. I think this place is full of pyramids. So, I mean, there's definitely something more to this that has to be explored. Here's a more distant view of it. Get it all more in context. Yeah, the place is full of pyramids, and they look super ancient. They're all covered with a lot of silt layer and everything.
Yeah, and if you look at photos before and after of like Chichen Itza pyramid on the Yucatan, some of these other ones, Teotihuacan,
Yep,
before they were excavated, they looked just like that, just a grassy hill.
totally.
Back in the day, before it was excavated, they just thought it was a big old hill.
Right.
Your general public did. Now we know it today as Teotihuacan or Chichen Itza, Kukulkan, these incredible ancient wonders. But yeah, if they're not excavated in after decades and centuries and millennia of buildup, it's going to look like an old hill.
Oh, absolutely right. But again, we can see all the intelligent design. So there's a film series that I created with Alan Green. You probably know Alan. It's called The Holy Grail of Geometry. And I think this is all combining to tell the same story, to be honest. It's like, so I'm going to show you some of this so that your viewers get a perspective on this, because I think it's a really important aspect of this. So this is the film. So I'll just turn off the sound so I can kind of go through it real quickly for you. But basically, you take Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube, you probably know, in geometry makes everything. It makes every shape, the dodecahedron, it makes the icosahedron, it makes the cube, it makes any shape is what's derived from Metatron's cube. And it shows up, it's the foundational basis of the flower of life as well. So the only difference between this and the flower of life is you've just taken out every other circle. So if you just connect these 13 circles, there's the flower of life, it creates Metatron's cube. And from this, every geometric form emerges in perspective that are the Platonic solids. And then if I take this and rotate it so that I've got a 24-point perspective rather than just 6-point perspective, I can draw any one of the Archimedean or Catalan solids. So this is a pattern that just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. You could say it's the design of the whole matrix. So what I found was that using Metatron's cube, I was able to reconstruct the entire Giza plateau from a purely architectural perspective. All you do is you make Metatron's cube, and then you'll find the place where to do the intersections. So the first intersection point is right here where the red circle is. Those are both just lines of Metatron's cube. So you find this exact intersection point, and then you find another intersection point, which is down here, which it'll go to in just a second, right at this point where the green circle is. And you mark that and see where it crosses over this line of the triangle cutting across here. So you'll see where that marking point is. So all you've done is we made one line from the standard Metatron's cube, and then see where it intersects this black rectangle right here, where the X mark was. And then without any measurement, because you can draw all of this without measurements at all, you can find exactly the architectural design of the Great Pyramid, which is supposed to be impossible. So you just draw a circle to that line using your compass, and then that gives you the base of the pyramid, and then take it to the center of Metatron's cube, and that gives you the 51.85397 degree angle that allows for perfect squaring of the circle. So, and it's not just the Great Pyramid that you can do this with. You can also do it with Caffrey Pyramid. So all you do is you draw a square that's the half base of the Great Pyramid, of this purple circle right here. You draw a perfect square within that. And again, without any measurements whatsoever, you just draw an X across it.
I'm still seeing your video screen.
Oh, no. That's not good. Okay, I got to go back. You have Metatron's cube that makes all the platonic solids, right? This part you need to see. So if you're going to design something that's sublimely perfectly designed, you would do it based on Metatron's cube. So Metatron's cube is basically the flower of life, with every other circle missing. That's all that it is. So you can connect the center points of all of these circles that are immediately adjacent to each other, and that creates Metatron's cube in geometry. And the reason why you want to make Metatron's cube is because that's the cube that allows you to draw every other geometric form. Just connecting the circles of the flower of life. And from that, you could create a tetrahedron, an octahedron, a hexahedron or the cube, icosahedron, and the dodecahedron. These are the building blocks of all of nature in the universe, the 5 platonic solids. And then this structure just repeats itself over and over and over again. And if I do 4 of these next to each other and have a 24-point surrounding circle, I can create any single structure, even compounds, that exist in the universe. So if you're going to build a sublimely perfect design, it must relate to Metatron's cube because it requires no measurements. I don't have to do any measurements. So the reason why Shakespeare is on here is because Alan found that this information was encrypted on the cover of the sonnets as well. So if we fast forward, we can see how this actually is going to make the Great Pyramid as well. So within Metatron's cube, you just connect those center points of the circles and then see where it intersects the other lines. The first place that it does so is right here where the red circle is. These are just the inherent lines of Metatron's cube. You don't have to draw anything else. And if you ask the question, why do the pyramid builders build the 3 different slope angles of the pyramids that they built? Well, we know the answer now. It's related to music, but it was all embedded in Metatron's cube. So all I have to do is I connect where this X line is, where this line connects to this line at this center point along this axis right here, the green circle, and then connect where it does it again, right down here. And then where it intersects this line of the central triangle that exoscribes this circle is where I have to mark. And then from that, it will define the base of the Great Pyramid proportionally. So all I have to do now is just take a circle from the bottom center point, mark where this green circle now intersects this black rectangle, and call it X. Then I draw a circle for that being my starting point from the base with a radius to the X, and I mark where that intersects the horizontal line that's blue. That becomes the base width of the Great Pyramid. And then I connect it to the center of Metatron's cube, and I just built the pyramid in architectural design with no measurements whatsoever and giving me the perfect 51.85397 degree angle that allows for squaring the circle. That is the slope angle of the Great Pyramid. So it's not just the Great Pyramid that you can do this with. You can also do it with Caffrey Pyramid. And all you do is you take a square that's 1/2 the base of the Great Pyramid, which is being defined right here by this blue circle. This is a perfect square now. The blue square. I put an X across it, find the center point. Then I draw another X going across the top half of that square to find its center point. Then all I have to do is to see where this intersects now. See, I'd made another circle of the exact same size on top and created a red dot at the top. So then I just simply take the proportion to make the shape of a number 4 on both sides. And then where it intersects this midpoint line of the quarter of the square, I take from the top of that circle through this line straight down to the base. And that gives me exactly the proportion of Khafre Pyramid versus the Great Pyramid and its perfect slope angle. And it's exactly to scale too. That's exactly how much larger the Great Pyramid is than Khafre Pyramid. And I did all of it without a single measurement taken, which was a Greek mathematician design principle. They had to design things, and it's from the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. Everything needed to be designed without a ruler because God didn't need a ruler. And how do we know it's correct? Because if we take a circle from the base of Khafre to the peak of Khafre, it will perfectly intersect the square of Khufu. The square that's blue right here is 1/2 the base of Khufu. So the masculine square meets the feminine perfectly. Exactly right here. And then the same thing happens as well with Menkaure Pyramid, also on this same design template. So this is, without a doubt, in my mind, the design template that was used to build the pyramid complex. And they weren't built over hundreds of years, you know, from a grandson to a son to the grandson, or grandfather to the son to the grandson. These were built at the same time.
And so you're saying this is, you believe, the actual design template that the ancient engineers used to build the Great Pyramids?
100%. It's just born in the inherency of the geometry. So then all you do to find Menkaure Pyramid is you take a V from the top of the square of Khufu down to the center of its base, and then back up here, and then see where it intersects the circle of Khufu. So this is the half circle of Khufu. It goes from Khufu's base from the center all the way out. So 2 of these circles make the full base of Khufu Pyramid. And then find where that intersection of the diagonal line, the half diagonal, comes down and intersects. And then to solve the rest of it is very simple. Then you mark the center point. Again, no measurements required whatsoever. Now I just draw a circle from that center point to the base. And then where this diagonal intersects the circle makes a perfect square. It's a principle of geometry. So you just make a square for the green dots. Take it straight down.
So this is the sacred geometry that you say is embedded in these pyramids.
That's right. So now I've got a square that meets in the exact same way that the Khufu square met with the Khafre circle into one pyramid. The most holy pyramid of the 3 is Menkaure. And then I just double the base of that square to find the base width of the pyramid. And that's exactly what Menkaure is. And again, perfectly to scale. And the exact right slope angle of 51.34 degrees. These are musical intervals. The musical intervals are defining the music of the Giza Plateau, which is da, 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 da. It's literally da, 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 da. The same as, oh, say, can you see? Same thing. That's literally the music of the Giza Plateau. It's da, da. So it goes da, 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 da. It's music.
Wow. So talk to us about resonance, because one thing I love about your research is you're often showing and posting on your Instagram and places the latest technologies like, you know, acoustic resonance. Talk to us about how that might relate to what you're referring to with the ancient engineers building the pyramids. You just showed us how Egypt sounds like. Talk to us about the resonance piece of inside the Great Pyramid, for example. I know you've talked about how it resonates at a certain hertz. But do you believe that they were also using resonance to possibly lift these 70+ ton blocks?
Yeah, I think that they figured out how to master it with their minds. That at a certain level of human evolution, you can master these resonance frequencies without machinery. And I really believe that that's what we are witnessing, both with the petroglyphs that are inside the walls. We're talking about a very advanced culture that has mastered scalar wave technology, which directly relates to what you were just showing with standing waves, cymatics and everything else. Light and sound, we only perceive them as separate. They're not really separate. One is a scalar representation, the other is a transverse representation. It starts from the misunderstanding that darkness is the absence of light. It's not. Darkness is not the absence of light. That is one of the most common misunderstandings of physics that people have, because it's so obvious. You walk into a dark room and you turn on the light and now you can see. That's what we think. But what we're missing is we're missing something that's way more profound that relates directly to this. And I have to kind of teach this principle first for you to understand this fully. Okay, so if we look at hydrogen, the spectral analysis of hydrogen. All right, so this is the spectral analysis of hydrogen. So when we look in the outer space, we look out in outer space with the James Webb telescope or something, it has sensors in there to be able to tell you what nanometers, and these are numbers that are measured in nanometers, okay, of light. So we only have 1 octave of our electromagnetic spectrum that would be considered visible light. 1 octave of light. So 40 octaves below that would be what we listen to. But music taken up 40 octaves becomes light. It just moves into the terahertz scale. Okay? So when we look at outer space and we see these colors, this specific, 660 nanometers or so, and 484 nanometers or 85 nanometers, and then looks like about 438 nanometers. And these different specific nanometers of light, when we see them as a cluster together, we know that that pocket of the universe has hydrogen in it. That's how we tell it's hydrogen, because we know from its spectral analysis it's matching hydrogen. Okay? And so we could say that white light would be the reflection of all color. Combination of all colors together creates white light. The absorption of white light would be the absorption of all colors together. That creates black light. So there's 2 ways to look at this. We could say, well, there's reflection and there's absorption. Darkness is not actually the absence of light. It's the absorption of light. When we turn on a light within my office and it's dark, it's only dark to my vision. There is, photons of light all over the room that I'm not yet perceiving till I turn on the light. All the light does is it accentuates and magnifies what's already being reflected and what's already being absorbed. So my carpet behind me is a tan color, but actually the true color of my carpet would also have to include its absorbed color. The absorbed color is a blue-gray color, the same color as my walls. That's why they look good together, because one is the reflection of the other's absorption. This is how we know we can match colors well together. And in music, this would be called a perfect fifth, the relationship, right? That's how we know what's going to sound good together. That's how we know what's going to look good together. So the other way I could look at hydrogen is to say all the things that it is not. So if I'm looking at the absorption spectrum, I could say these are all the colors. The rest of the rainbow spectrum is what's being absorbed by hydrogen. So now do you understand? Yin and yang, the light doesn't exist without the dark. You can't have one without the other. So you could literally say that the entire universe becomes an X and a 1 over X, because this is the relationship. It was Niels Bohr who discovered that the relationship between these two is simply reciprocity. X and 1 over X. Mathematically, it's this equation. So I posted a video on my Instagram not long ago to explain this principle, because it's such an important thing for people to really understand fully. But the idea is this, that if you diffract light and put a pencil in front of the diffracted light, the shadow that it casts is not a black shadow. it becomes the complementary color shadow. So if you're diffracting light and create a blue light stream, you're going to see a magenta color as its shadow color. Darkness is not the absence of light. So we could then extend that further and say, okay, the absorption manifests itself, right, not only as the opposite photons, but also in the form of sound. So sound resonance is what you're talking about. You could have sunlight coming from the sun, but we think the photons are traveling. They're not actually traveling. It's just like if I sit up and down in a stadium, right, and the light is traveling along a wave perturbation, but each segment of cubic spacetime is separate. It's not that it's actually traveling. Light doesn't actually travel. This is one of the things people really miss all the time. So when you live in a matrix, you have to realize that the only limitations in a mental matrix are your belief systems. We all therefore live in a cage of our own beliefs. What do we believe is possible? And that is what defines our reality. Because what happens to us isn't actually what happens to us. Rather, it's what we believe happens to us. So the same is true for all the limitations that we place because we believe that we're in a material world where all this solidity is real. Well, put on the Apple Vision Pro headset, and within 5 minutes, one of the thoughts that you will entertain is, maybe we live in a simulation right now, because it's so real in that thing. It's so real, it's mind-blowing. So we're so used to thinking about stone being totally heavy. The whole thing is a mental matrix that once you break out of that mental matrix, then you have the ability to change your experience dramatically. The only thing that limits us are the perceptions and belief systems we ascribe to those perceptions. So when you understand that light and sound are actually just two sides of the same coin, then you can use it to manipulate matter. You can use it to transmute elements. You can even use it to lift very heavy stones. And we call these things standing waves. And so you ask the question, could they have moved stone? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And that's what I'm seeing. And so what I'm going to show you now is what is actually inside the Great Pyramid. And I just showed you that Metatron's cube is the foundational basis of the architecture of the three pyramids on the Giza Plateau. Okay, what if I told you that Metatron's cube is again the foundational basis of the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber? Because it is, and I just discovered this. One of the limitations of Metatron's cube is that you don't get to make a perfect dodecahedron. It's close if you do it the way that Drunvalo Melchizedek prescribed. You can do it if you inscribe a pentagon within a circle and then exoscribe a circle around that pentagon. And then you find the distance and you create this modified Metatron's cube. It gives you a perfect perspective geometry that adheres to the golden ratio for the dodecahedron in the center. So there's a dodecahedron in here. But I just discovered that I can do it without any measurement, without making the pentagon, which has complication associated with it. But the only way I can do that I know of is to start by making the King's Chamber proportion, which is 2:1, 20 cubits long, 10 cubits wide. And by this, I simply take a 20 cubit by 10 cubit, proportionally 2:1 rectangle, and I exoscribe this gray, dark gray circle around that. See where it's hitting the points right here on the corners? And then I inscribe this red circle within it using the same center point. So now I've got two circles, the red and this dark gray or black circle. You see that so far? All I then do is I take this red circle and from the very top of it, I extend another circle to the center, and then that's going to give me exactly this intersection point on where the rectangle is meeting the red circle too. Right? So this rectangle line right here is intersecting the red circle, and where that's happening, I can now draw a line cutting across the center all the way out on both sides. And then all I have to do is take the exoscribed black circle and then draw a circle from here to intersect here, which then gives me the location of this exact black circle right here. This then allows me to draw the perfect Metatron's cube that's thrice crowned. So you got 3 circles now. This one, and this one. This allows me to draw the perfect dodecahedron internally that has the perfect golden ratio relationship to it. And all of this just simply from Metatron's cube that was derived from the king's chamber proportion exactly without measurements at all. This is telling me the king's chamber proportion right in here, this 2-to-1 relationship. And it's matching this. Now, we know that the sarcophagus was moved from its original position. It's well known that it was. But where was it originally? And what I'm going to tell you is that I strongly believe, and I found the chip marks in the floor from where they moved it. And the reason I was able to find it is because I imaged all of it, from the Harvard LiDAR scans, pieced them all together into an Apple Vision Pro headset, which is a super advanced gameplay now of the entire inner structure of the Great Pyramid that looks super hyper-realistic. And what I was able to find is a chip mark in the floor right here from where they lifted up, a large chip mark, lifted up the sarcophagus and moved it. I don't know why they moved it, but if you place Orion into the floor, it happens to match this proportion as well. The inscribed circle is where this Betelgeuse intersects this line, and the exoscribed circle is where the exoscribed circle intersects. So it literally forms this shape right here. The king's chamber relates to Orion, the Orion correlation. And why? Because Orion is the avatar of Metatron. This is why it's all tying back. The Orion correlation shows up. The Xi'an pyramids in China, the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico, the Giza plateau, all of them giving us the exact Orion correlation. Don't you find that strange? Floripa, Florianopolis, Brazil, I just showed you. The Orion Stonehenge, of all the places, I'd never even heard of such a place. And I happened to go there, not even knowing that it existed there. We're on the hunt for Orion right now, humanity. What is it about Orion? Orion represents the hero's journey of mankind. Joseph Campbell took tens of thousands of stories told across campfires and folk legend and all kinds of stuff, and found a common theme in all the stories. They all have the same basic story. Different characters, different backdrops, but it's all the same story. There's a call to an adventure. Then you get a supernatural aid. You're living this life deep in the matrix. You don't even know you're in the matrix. The one divides itself into the many so that it can perceive itself through our unique eyes of perspective and vision. Then you go to this threshold. You face challenges and temptations. You have a mentor that helps you. Then usually there's a crisis and the death of the mentor. Then you have to find it within yourself to find your own at-one-ment, atonement. And you get a gift from the goddess or the god. And you return with the elixir of life to heal society. This is the hero's journey. This hero's journey is played out. This is the king's chamber, this rectangle. And not only that, but if we look at the North Star, why did the king's chamber end up with a 2-to-1 relationship? And if I just take the diagonal of the center of the king's chamber, the radius from here to the upper corner of the rectangle, from the center to the corner, ends up being the height from the floor to ceiling. So they went as far as telling us in 3 dimensions how to do this, which is like mind-blowing, because if I take the center of this king's chamber and then take the length of the line from the center to the corner up here, it gives you the exact height from floor to ceiling, which is not 10 cubits and it's not 20 cubits. It's 11.18 cubits. Exactly. So they're telling us this proportion is really vital. And so what I had discovered was that on the walls of the pyramid, last time I talked to you, there was a bull that I showed you on the wall. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I brought some new people on my team, our research team, and I brought a guy by the name of Rob Comber, who's recommended by Alan Green to join the team because he's an expert in astrology, and specifically the deacon of astrology. He just wrote a book on it. The 36 deacon, the same ones that are on the Dendera master plate that went to the Louvre in Paris. So their zodiac was split because they didn't have enough specificity in the 12 zodiac signs. They wanted greater specificity, so they had one for every 10 days. This is also matching the Atlantean calendar. They had a 360-day year in Egypt. Why 360 days? Because the year had to be broken into the lunar and the solar calendars and had to be the average of the two. The solar calendar is 365.4 days, including leap year. The lunar calendar is 354.6 days, including leap year. So when you add those together, they equal 720 exactly. Divided by 2 to find the mean value is 360. We've just been ignoring the female calendar. That's why we didn't understand that 1 degree is 1 day. So there has to be time for think of it as 2 backbones of DNA. Time itself is like that. One is the sun, the other is the moon. The ancient Egyptians understood this. That's why they mean valued it out at 360 days. And yet, when we look at our sky, we go from January to February, February to March, March, April, May, June, July, August, all that. And of course, we go from Capricorn to Aquarius, Aquarius to Pisces, Pisces to Aries, Aries to Taurus, Taurus to Gemini, Gemini to Cancer, Cancer to Leo. And that's how our year progresses forward. This is called precession of equinox. But at the exact same time that we're going forward in that calendar, on the large cycle of 24,000 years, we go backwards. This is why we went from the Pisceon, or the age of Pisces, to the Aquarion. And for those people that say, oh, we still got 500 more years before we go to the Aquarion, bullshit. Look around, man. Just look at exactly how it's supposed to be described. You also have to use your common sense. So the walls of the pyramid had a bull on this wall. There's a lion on this wall. There's a woman riding on the back of a flying horse, shooting an arrow, bow and arrow, at an eagle on this wall. There's also a man's face on the wall. And there's also on this wall a large snake.
Can you show us some of those really quick?
I will. I'm going to show all of them. So each of these showed up on the walls, and Rob Comber said, wait a minute, you do realize that these are matching up with the zodiac. I said, well, yeah, I get that Taurus is here on the north wall. I get that the lion is on the west wall, which represents Leo. I get also that there's a woman flying on a Pegasus, and I don't see how that relates to Aquarius. And he said, oh, very simply, right? They're actually in Capricorn, and it's Delphinus, who is known for shooting the bow and arrow, and she's firing the arrow at the eagle Aquila while riding the Pegasus. Pegasus is in Aquarius. Aquila, Sagitta, the arrow, and Delphinus are in Capricorn, which is exactly the spot where they are on the wall. So then we're like, oh man, that must mean, if this is correct, then what we're really looking at here is just a model of this, right? Which is the whole model of, here you go. This is the dial right here of the Deacon of Astrology. And all of them, the Delphinus is the woman, the arrow against the Aquila. Then on the north wall, here's the bull. There's a cow around it. You see the cow? This is built on the LiDAR scans of the Great Pyramid by Harvard. So you see the Apis bull. There's also a Hathor cow around it. Its eye is right here. And then right up here, exactly where it should be, is the face of a man, where you could see his two pupils. There's a bird over his nose and his face. And he's got lips. And this is the face of Orion. And Orion sits exactly in the Taurus constellation. So I could show you this version. We'll show it a little bit better. Okay, so you could see here, there's something on the wall right here, right? This is where the woman is. And you could see an arm right here, and you could see an arrowhead right here. Let's look closer. So this uses LiDAR to pull out the different contour. Here's the arrow right here, arrowhead. If you look closely, there's also a word written here, Thoth. I believe Da Vinci put that there. Both.
Oh, wow.
This is the east wall of the King's Chamber. And this shadow of this bird stretches across 3 blocks, 4 blocks actually. And they're in exactly the right position they should be in the room orientation. So then Rob says to me, well, if this is true, then there should be to the upper left side of the wing a fish. And there is. So now if we go back, you can see the beginning of this without anything there. Can you see the woman riding the horse? This is her arm. Here's her arm holding the bow and arrow. Here's her face. Here's her hair. Here's the leg of the horse, the other leg. And it's shooting this arrow, the arrow right here, right at this eagle that stretches all the way across this block here. And it's got 2 talons. Pretty mind-blowing.
And as you've noted before, I mean, it's so hard to make these out with the naked eye because there's been, I mean,
oh, they've been scrubbed so many times.
Scrubbed with chemicals.
Scrubbed with chemicals. And I really complained to the head of the Giza Plateau about it too. I was like, come on, man. Let's not do this. I mean, this is bad. They've literally scrubbed it. But now the good news is I have all the LiDAR scans. These are the actual LiDAR scans of the King's Chamber. So I don't really need to go in the King's Chamber so much anymore.
So these are LiDAR scans from Harvard University of the entire chamber.
Yes.
So what you've done is downloaded this video and then you've overlaid it with your drawings.
I pieced them all together because they're all in different pieces. Pieced them all together and made it into a virtual reality room so I can go inside there anytime.
And can we get access to do this, or is this just something you've done for yourself?
No, it's a game that I've created called Maya, where you can go in there and you have to identify and draw out the stuff with your fingers, right, on the walls. And once you find all of the constellations, then you also have to figure out what to do with the sarcophagus. And then you can travel through the Stargate in the game.
Is this
because each of these blocks, notice these blocks are all different sizes, right? They're all different sizes. The reason we're all different sizes is because each of the star systems that are represented in these pictures all over the walls, the glyphs, are different X, Y, Z coordinates in space-time. The blocks are made of granite that is largely quartz crystal. This is a memory storage of a coordinate system for each star system. The XYZ is giving you the location in space-time. This creates a wormhole, I believe, to each of these stargates. I don't think we even need a device to get there. Now, you could see the eagle right here. It's all about raising our own consciousness. See the eagle and the 2 talons right here? Here's the wing that cuts across here, all the way across. Mm-hmm. Right? Here's the arrow. The woman's on the horse, right? The name Thoth is written right here. It says 126 here on the wall as well. And where it should be, we said, well, there must be a fish to the upper left of the eagle's wing. If this is true, And look at this. Here's a vesica shape with the tail, shaped just like a fish. Then we knew, once we figured out that we could predict what the next image was on the wall and where it would be, we knew we had this solved. And we're not totally done with it yet, but we've solved a lot of it now. This is a Stargate. So these are all the images, and you can find there's stuff all over the walls. This is a man in the position of Ophiuchus. And this is like a black man's face. There's eyes right here, and he's got ram's horns on his head, representing the shadow consciousness. There's all kinds of stuff on this wall that people have just never seen or really looked to analyze. But now we've got all of it. We've actually found and mapped it all because we knew where we could, once we had our reference point, we could find all kinds of stuff, right?
And for the record, do you believe these, petroglyphs, if I remember right, you believe these were the original engineers of this pyramid that put these in, not the dynastic Egyptians?
Yes. This is the original builders. Even in the ceiling, you've got two eyes right here. Looks like some sort of nose coming down. There's a face right along here. There's faces and stuff all over these walls. And you know who else said this? Was Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon basically said straight up that, look, this is the west wall behind the sarcophagus. There's a lion's face right here. Here's the eye. Here's the other eye. Here's the nose bridge of the lion and the lion's mane all the way across here, and the two ears of the lion's face. It's like almost like a grayscale drawing. So just look at this, and then you'll look at that, and you'll see it.
Wow.
And that's exactly the Leo constellation where it's supposed to be. So remember, the Ark of the Covenant, many believe, was stored inside the sarcophagus. And the faces on the Ark of the Covenant were the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of a bull, and the face of an eagle. All four of those are symbols, prominent symbols, on these four walls.
And what are your sources regarding the theories that the Ark of the Covenant may have been placed inside that box inside the King's Chamber?
It matches exactly. First of all, the zodiac matches perfectly, right? Now that we know that there's stuff all over the walls that is all related to the zodiac and the deacon of astrology. The second thing we figured out is that the proportions of the Ark of the Covenant fit perfectly inside the sarcophagus with the poles to hold it. It's a perfect fit. Third is the encampment of Israel in the book Ezekiel references the tabernacle, right? And they carry the Ark of the Covenant in the tabernacle. They're lost looking around for 40 years, right? So they're lost around, the Holy Land for like 40 years, trying to find the land of milk and honey, the land of Canaan. And they have the tabernacle encampment. And guess what the tabernacle encampment was? All of the symbols of each of the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes, is actually related to the zodiac. So Ezekiel, right, camp of Israel, and the numbers that were used to describe the camp of Israel was all matching like physics stuff, which is kind of nuts, right? Like literally the camp of Israel is separated like this. This is the camp of Israel. Tabernacle's at the center, the face of a man, the ox, the eagle, and the lion. These were exactly references to the Great Pyramid.
Also fascinating that it's in the shape of a cross.
Fascinating, it's in the shape of a cross, and look at the numbers. The camp of the lion, which was Judah, was the head of the tribe. This is Manasseh and Ephraim, right? And then the eagle would have been the ancient name of Scorpio, because it goes through a transformation. Scorpion turns into a snake, snake turns into an eagle, eagle turns into a phoenix, phoenix turns into Ophiuchus, the wisdom keeper, the serpent bearer. Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer. And then the man is in the age of Aquarius. So this would be exactly opposite orientation, because the Great Pyramid, King's Chamber, is exactly backwards orientation, teaching us about precession. because backwards is precession. That's what precess means. So it's a 24,000 year cycle. So this would be the east wall. This is the north wall, right? This would be the way that they've oriented it here. This is this would be the west wall, and then this is the south wall. And if you look at the numbers, 186,400, that's one of the known measurements for the speed of light in miles per second. What? 108,100 relates to the ox, and that is matching the 108 number of the moon's radius, 1,080 miles, right? And these are all math constants. So there's some super knowledge here, and each of the tribes of Israel are just names of the zodiac. So Judah is Leo, right? Manasseh is May. So you could actually look at the association between 12 tribes and zodiac.
What's the oldest zodiac source known to Earth, known to man?
So the first zodiac references were, what we consider Babylonian. Yeah, right. I mean, the Dendera template, the very first references we have to the zodiac are from our oldest books, which are the Bible, the Epic of Gilgamesh. So, and they're right in there. There's just no doubt about it.
Another crazy thought I'm having is with your theories of Babylon possibly being right there in Egypt. Obviously in the Bible, there's so much talk and back and forth from the Old Testament all the way to the time of Christ of going to Egypt, right? There's obviously the children of Israel were held captive in Egypt, and Jesus himself went to Egypt, and Abraham went down to Egypt. So the Ark of the Covenant, that's crazy that you're saying its dimensions would fit exactly inside the so-called sarcophagus.
Yeah, Moses stole it out of the king's chamber, I think.
Because even when I just did an interview with Christopher Dunn last week, author of the Giza power plant book. So he's looking at all this from an engineering mindset. And he said that he basically proves that there was this massive explosion inside the king's chamber, which is why they've tried to patch, it up with what looks like almost modern day cement in places on the ceiling, and how the fire would burst out down the Grand Gallery and incinerated what he believes were these basically tools that were in those notches in the Grand Gallery. The point is, there is fire, there was evidence of an explosion. Could that correlate with possibly the Ark of the Covenant being inside that?
I believe the Ark of the Covenant was in the king's chamber. Now, if you look at this picture right here, this points to another, it definitely helps point to that conclusion, because you got the 12 tribes of Israel. Judah is Leo. Issachar is Cancer. Benjamin is Gemini. Joseph, Manasseh, and Ephraim are the sons of Joseph, are Taurus. Right? So that would actually mean 14 tribes, because Manasseh was its own tribe. Gad is Aries. Right? And Gad was supposed to be a warrior tribe, matching that of Aries, god of war. Pisces is Simeon. Aquarius is Reuben. Capricorn is Naphtali. Sagittarius is Asher, and Dan, Scorpio. Right? And Libra, Levi. Virgo is Zebulon. These are the 12 tribes. And it's matching the story of the Ark of the Covenant, which is what was on the Ark of the Covenant. So, of course, if the Ark of the Covenant was in the Great Pyramid, then it stands to reason, and you probably saw the Revelations of the Pyramid, excellent documentary by the French team that basically showed the giant clock of time. The clock of time is inside the king's chamber. It relates to Metatron's cube. And it comes back to the hero's journey of humanity, which is Orion finding himself and remembering that he's Metatron. And that's why all of a sudden, I end up going to the one place in Brazil and making a discovery of Orion. Come on.
Fascinating.
It's not probable, right? It's like, it's entirely improbable. So when we look at, the rest of the walls, I'll show you some other images here. This is what it looks like. And the drawings are done in the style that almost looks like Picasso-esque. It's more of an Atlantean style. Okay, so this is the deacon of astrology. This is what should be on all the walls. So that would be 48 total constellations. And we've now mapped it. It is. It's what's on the walls. And enough people have now seen this that this has gotten a lot of places now. So, you look at Taurus, here's Orion, Eridanus, Auriga, and then the opposite of Taurus would be Scorpio, Ophiuchus. In the mythology, Orion was stung by a scorpion and brought to life back by Ophiuchus, who was Asclepius, who was also, the story of Hermes. So he has a staff. Da Vinci encrypted all of this. He has the Vitruvian Man, which is representing Orion. Orion constellation is Osiris. Vitruvian Man was cut into 14 parts. And in his text of Vitruvian Man, he explains that he cut his man into 14 parts. And he cut him exactly in the spots: the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the groin, the knees. He cut him exactly in the same spots that Set cut Osiris. He put horizontal and vertical lines into the man. And then in the text above, it says, I cut his man into 1/14. It's all the 14th. The missing 1/14 is Orion is the 14th constellation. Ophiuchus is the 13th. Ophiuchus is the shadow of Orion that becomes redeemed and redeems Orion. They're the same. It's not separate. It's reflection and absorption of each other. Just like the light that I was just telling you about, and light and sound are the same thing. So now we've got Ophiuchus, who has redeemed Orion. The shadow of Orion has been redeemed. So he's no longer a scorpion. He becomes the phoenix and surpasses even the phoenix. He's an older man who's sitting down, no longer wants to conquer. But he's a hero, a different kind of hero. He's become a wise sage in the process. All of these are on the walls, all of these constellations. That's why it hasn't been noticed, because you'd have to have a very high degree of understanding of all of this. And most people don't even know these other constellations. They might know the major zodiac signs.
Right.
But you have to know all of these because this is what's represented on the walls. The major ones are also there, but this is what it looks like. So on the wall that I showed you, this is what it looks like to me, right? And then the other wall has the face of Orion on it and a bull and the cow. And again, these are stylized drawings, and it's exactly where the bull and the cow should be.
And are those DNA strips?
DNA strips on the wall. Absolutely.
That's nuts.
And the night we went to the pyramid, we came out, and Orion was literally standing on top of the apex. Here's Orion constellation, the 3 belt stars. How epic is that? It was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool moment, I have to say.
How can people find and access this game?
So it's going to be on Orion. It's on Orion app.
Okay.
And you can access it through there. This is what the south wall looks like. Here's a man. Here's the face. He's got ram's horns. There's a woman's face next to him, right? There's a face of Hercules right behind him. Here's the bridge of the nose. Here's the 2 eyes. Here's the eyebrow. And then above him is the shape of Corona Borealis, which is the beehive, the crown. And this is all on the wall. And he's surrounded by a large snake right here. That's a snake eating its own tail. Looks just like this.
I like the left and right comparison.
Yep. I've got some other ones to show you like that. This is Cygnus. And so this is Cygnus on the left. And this is Lyra. And this is also Orion's face. Here's one of the pupils right here. Lyra is right on top of his face. Now, why is the room also shaped 2 to 1? Because if you look in the night sky, guess what the shape it makes is? We have 4 North Stars. This is important to your stuff. There are 4 North Stars, and we change every 6,000 years our North Star. Right now, we're in Polaris as our North Star. But 6,000 years ago, it was Thuban. And 6,000 years before that, it was Vega. And 6,000 years before that, it was Deneb. and Cygnus. If you look in the night sky, this is the orientation, a 2-to-1 rectangle, the same as the King's Chamber. So Orion is going through the precession of 24,000 years that has also got corners in the walls that meet with the poles changing their North Pole positions.
Well, this was a fascinating interview, Robert. Thanks again for your time and
thank you
for giving us the full Monty here. You busted out both barrels blazing. That was awesome.
I did. Well, we got cut short that last time, and then it was hard to reschedule. But the pace of discovery all around the world now is so fast. And it's not just, our team. It's people like yourself and others. We're all waking up to this, and everyone is playing a part in this. This is not just, one group. And I don't believe that this age is meant to be consolidated around one leader or something. I just don't. I think that this is supposed to be an age of sovereignty where everybody gets to be a leader, but no one has to be the leader. Well, so great to spend time with you, my friend, and you're definitely invited on a trip with me to Egypt.
Cannot wait, and I can't wait to get on the Orion app. We'll get that cooking.
Totally. It's time. It's all about freeing our voices, and that's why we built it. And now my next season of Codex is coming out in a couple of months, and it's epic. I mean, I actually give everyone a tour of the inside of the Great Pyramid through virtual reality, and it's totally real. It's amazing. I had to get filmed in this box that looked like Vitruvian Man's box with 96 cameras on me and everything. It was nuts in 3 dimensions and 4 dimensions for movement. And it's called Metatron Revealed. And the whole thing's about the story of Orion and the hero's journey of Orion, which is just a representation of humanity itself.
Well, for everybody watching, listening, follow Robert. His website, robertedwardgrant.com. He's on Instagram at Robert Edward Grant.
Codex Season 1 you can find on Gaia. It's also on Amazon Prime. And Season 2 is coming out sometime this summer.
And we'll talk soon.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.